Okay, so I might join you there, but I just wanted to say thank you to all the presenters. We've heard them reflect and present on workforce development initiatives, from competency frameworks to training frameworks, structured curricula, developing like creative models to engage participants, youth-led initiatives to increase knowledge and skills among young scientists, digital support systems, and also collaborative learning approaches. So with that, before I open up the floor to the floor for questions, I have one question, and any of you can answer. And I think this is the question that everybody always asks: how can we work together? So most of us, in fact, this is also one of the outcomes or findings from the meeting we had last year in Bangkok with Chantal and in the training workshop that we did last year. We all want to familiarize with what is there and how can we improve that sharing of information and collaboration. We have different organizations that are all interested in doing the same thing. We have the IPSN, we have all these different global programs, we have the PHAGE, we have NGS Academy, we have quite a lot of organizations, institutes, projects that are, have the same objective, which is to develop skills, to develop the workforce. So my question to you is, how do you think we can improve, and how can we better connect amongst these programs? Let's go first.
Yeah, I can give it a go. So one of the things we've done in the bioinformatics, not public health, but specifically in bioinformatics, is we organically created this Global Bioinformatics Education Summit. So it was because in our group we were thinking, we just really need to get these training resources done. Let's just bring trainers together, put them in a room, don't let them give talks, just let them work. And that started in Cape Town, and then it continued. And we got different organizations together, and even though they were all working on their own things, when they got into that room once a year for a week, they just worked on joint things and heard about each other's stuff. And then we actually have a monthly update, bi-monthly update meeting. So maybe something like that in this space, where you're not stifling what each group is doing, because I think each group is doing their own thing, as long as they connect regularly, because the last thing we want is yet another meeting where 90% of the people don't turn up. So I think we need to have these kind of connecting points, and maybe it's something similar to the Global Bioinformatics Education Summit, where you literally arrive in a place and you just work. You don't give presentations, you just work. And that really worked for us.
I think I want to add to that. I think we have a lot of tools, but we do not have people who are actually connecting the tools to the people, which is why I think it's very important for us to actually try to reach out to communities that already have these people within their communities and try to direct these tools to them so that they can have access to it and know that they exist.
I guess just to add to that, and I'd really like Nikki's idea about, finding opportunities to connect, and that idea of coming together and really being able to work together as opposed to just listen to presentations. I guess one of the things that came out of the workshop last year in Bangkok as well was kind of in between those in-person meetings, which are obviously, rare and expensive and few and far between, how can we create an online community? And the issue with these things is always who's going to coordinate it, where is it going to be hosted? And I guess one of the ideas that was, I think, quite well received at that workshop was this idea of, for example, through the IPSN and through the Laboratory, being able to create a kind of a training shared space where if you wanted to share your resources, you could, or if you wanted to just put up a list of what your expertise is, what the training modules you've developed are, and a contact detail like that would also be fine. So I think having those kind of online connections as well as an in-person forum.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to open to the floor for questions. We have a question over there.
Hi, this should be a quick one. Oliver, I was wondering if there's anywhere I could download the model and give it a go. I've got access to big GPUs, so.
It's currently on my private GitHub. It is, yeah, right now it is all private, but it will be once it's done and ready to be put into the help desk. I'm sure I will make it fully accessible. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the presenters?
Yeah, my question goes to Julia. I sort of link back your presentation to what Karen commented about previously, where there's some informal relationships that aid information sharing. But in your situation where you're proposing like the tabletop exercises, which I believe is really excellent, but when I look at it, it's more reinforcing relationships that may be already existing. Like sometimes epidemiologists and people in the lab probably are people who share a common background, for instance, schools, and probably there are mechanisms under which they are really talking, but still things aren't happening. So what would be your opinion on actually having frameworks that actually do guide exactly how such people can, you know, work together to have sort of interpretation and analysis done like unanimously?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. I think you're just really hitting the nail on the head with the question, because I think, you know, it is frameworks that we need to share, and it's ideas that we need to share in this particular problem space. In other problem spaces, it is an SOP, or it is a bioinformatics pipeline, or something of that nature. But here, the solution will look different for everyone. And so I think it is just ideas. It's something like, well, we embedded an epidemiologist in the lab for 3 days a week. I've heard that as a solution that's worked for people. Or maybe it's tabletop exercises, or maybe it's we physically relocated, you know, our buildings were on different campuses and we put them on the same campus and we have like a joint lunch every week or something like that. I think it could also be, you know, what is a question, I don't know, some sort of like dialogue facilitation guide that a trainer could give or something like that. So I think this is a space where the goal isn't necessarily a prescriptive protocol or a one-size-fits-all solution. It's, you know, what strategies worked, just so we could have a menu of options out there. And so I think you're right, it's a framework or just a menu of choices.
Yep, I think that goes back to, you know, some of the plans to develop these frameworks, or training framework, competence framework. So perhaps having a place where you can compile all these tools and how people can use them would be useful. Okay. More question?
Okay, thank you. This is Bacha from Ethiopian Public Health Institute. So my question is for Gladys. Really, I appreciate your presentation, really, which inspires me as a young Africa researcher, especially I focus on malaria. So I do have two questions for you. The first one is how to integrate this initiative into like governmental health system, or like just decision makers like that, how we can integrate, how you plan to integrate this into the system first. The second is how can I join personally this group? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think the first one, what we're trying to do first was establish the community and build this community. But then asking a question about integrating into government frameworks, I think I might be a bit wary about that, because it then becomes a little bit too complicated and too complex for people to join. We tried to create something that was very simple and people could easily join, and then people who have resources, training resources and tools and funding could easily reach out to us without the plenty complexities and bureaucracy that integrating it with a government system might work. In terms of how you can join, we are opening for members early next year after our conference, which is the first physical gathering of young genomics enthusiasts across Africa. So after the conference, we're trying to restructure, because now we've understood a number of things from our first year. We've now learned, and we're trying to restructure. So once we're done restructuring, we will put out a call for members. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions in the back there?
Hi, another question for Oliver. So I really liked how you reduced all the hallucinations. Did you analyse the different sections where you got the answers from in the paper?
Thank you for the question. Which, I don't think I'm understanding it properly. Are you asking?
Yeah, so did you look, was the results, were it in the results and discussion?
Yeah.
Or was it in the introduction?
So when I extracted the text from all of the papers, so what happens is I separated each paper by section. So abstract gets its own text, introduction gets its own text, and then each line is given metadata. So it says it's from this article, this. So and then those rows get put into the file. I don't know if that makes into the data set. I don't know if that answers.
Partially. So thanks. That's later.
Okay, one last question before we go for the coffee break. Yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony from UCT. Thanks to all the speakers. I have 2 questions. First question to Professor Nicola Mulder. Once you have implemented these training curriculum to different institutions or individuals on the continent, is there a fair and great feedback mechanism for individuals or institutions to give criticism or feedbacks to the custodians of the curriculum to keep them updated, to keep the context relevant, and for them to be periodically reviewed? And then the second question to Oliver, when you talk about the LLM, when you sort of feed your AI the journal articles, do you need to get permission from the publishers or the journal articles themselves? I'm just thinking about it from a legal and ethical point of view, because I'm assuming you don't want to be sued for like $1 million for using training data. Thank you.
Okay, Nikki, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think when people take the curriculum and use it, there are 3 types of feedback we want to get. We want to get evaluations from the actual students who did the course to see, well, did it address their needs? Do they have the skills that they want? The second is from trainers to say, is it what they would have taught? Or were there gaps maybe that they would have taught that's specific to their local context, for example? And then the third might be from the employers to say, are the people who've been on that course that are in my staff, do they have the skills that they need? So we're hoping that all of those different audiences will feed back, and that it's a community effort. It's never a done deal because the field moves, everything changes. So we're hoping that it'll be just a continuous feedback, and we can improve through that feedback.
So all of the articles that I gathered, they are open access articles, and the licensing around that is that you can use certain ones for commercial use and then certain ones for not commercial use. And I have that all within the metadata. So right now it's mainly what I've been doing is for my masters. So once that gets in, if this goes more commercial or goes onto the help desk for use in real life, I'm sure that would be a challenge that I'll have to properly, fully understand more. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes the workforce development session. So a big thank you again to the presenters. It's been really wonderful having you here.